some Dragon's Dogma 2 controversy, your favorite farming sim got a big update, and the PlayStation 5 Pro the specs got leaked. And it's real. All this and more on Game Rant. Hello and welcome, my fellow rivals, to another episode of Game Rivals. I'm your host, Maximilian X, coming to you from the interwebs, as always, bringing you the latest gaming news that it is making the waves as they do, because it is big news, and sometimes the smaller news that people tend to overlook. There's a lot to go through. I'm going to try and make sure that we get to the cool and interesting and even controversial stuff that has come out over the past couple of weeks. So, you know what? No more dilly-dally, and let's dive right in and talk about the first order of business. So, the first order of business is, of course, going to be the PlayStation 5 Pro leak, and it has been confirmed that it is indeed a thing that Sony is working on, which is, it was rumored for a while, and yeah, if we're gonna look at everything and all of it, I'm gonna talk about it in a bit, but yeah, is anybody really surprised that they're doing a PlayStation 5 Pro? Because again, it has been rumored that they're working on something like that, and we also know that Microsoft is working on something that is allegedly going to be a Series X, but all digital. Allegedly, again, we do not know if this is going to be the case or not. It all depends on what we see. Hopefully sometime later this year, maybe, but at least with Sony, we can expect that there is going to be something really big coming this year. In fact, with this PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, to cover some of the stuff that this PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be capable of, I'm just going to quickly run through some of the specs. There are more detailed stuff out there if you look for it. Insider Gamer, that website, is covering that in greater detail. Go check it out. But basically, the things that you have to take into account when it comes to the PlayStation 5 Pro are the following things. The system memory is going to be increased in performance for up to 28%. It could be even higher with some weird technical jumbo that they're doing about that, which is great because system memory allows a game to load more stuff so that it has less load times. Less load times means better performance. Speaking of performance, they're also allegedly increasing it 10% when it comes to CPU output, and for graphics, that is up to 45% rendering time. They're also adding an improved ray tracing, which, if you have played anything that's, whether it's on PlayStation 5 or on Xbox Series S or S or X, it is. They always tout that, oh, they had, ray tracing and like fast loading with no load times, blah blah blah. There are still some games that have load times, and there are also games that do not fully utilize ray tracing, mostly because ray tracing is a pretty expensive piece of tech to use in gaming or otherwise. It just costs a lot of resources. So the fact that the PlayStation 5 base system and Xbox Series were able to use ray tracing, especially when it comes to the Series S, is pretty astounding, but also not a lot of games use them, or if they do, it's not like really like high-end ray tracing. This should fix that problem for PlayStation. We still have yet to see what Xbox is going to do about that. They increased the teraflops, but nobody really cares about that. And they're also introducing a new piece of software-related tech called PSSR, called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling. This is a upscaling technique not unlike DLSS from NVIDIA or FSR from AMD, which is a technique used, of course, to improve the quality of images for games and whatnot, despite not using like super high-end tech to do so. It uses machine learning to generate images and also improve image quality in general, so that you don't necessarily have to have the latest and greatest graphics card to do anything, but because of how it works and because of what it does, it allows it to look even better, to be 4K, or in this case, what they're most likely aiming for, 8K, which, okay, seriously, like, just off the cuff here, who owns an 8K TV, like, for real? Outside of, like, you being rich and not, like, caring so much about what you buy. Because I'm pretty sure that the most general audience that owns a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series does not own an 8K, and if they do, it is either one that is of lesser quality, which defeats the point, or, again, they have the money to throw around just to buy an 8K TV. Most people do not have this. It's also kind of weird that they're doing this. I don't know why they're doing this. I still have a 1080p TV. I mean, what am I going to say? So yeah, for those that have 4K TVs, this is probably going to be a great thing, because this means that at the very least, 4K stuff is going to look even better, or at the very least, games performance especially is going to be more stable on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I mean, that's the general idea, right? The whole idea of the Pro is so that you have a better performance, which is weird because the whole point of this generation of consoles was that they were superior to their previous one, and they took future proofing in mind, which is why they're supposed to be able to do ray tracing and all that other stuff naturally. But as we see with more recent games where they're specifically made for the current generation of consoles, they seem to have a problem even hitting 30 frames per second stably, let alone 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, with the exclusion of certain games and game styles like racing games. Those are able to hit certain goals because they, even though they look fantastic, compared to some of the more involved games, like if you think of something like a Baldur's Gate 3 or Halo Infinite or Horizon Forbidden West or what have you, those games tend to need a little bit more oomph so that they can hit the 4K 60 frames per second. And yeah, I mean, they're made by the companies in question. Forza is made by Xbox, by Microsoft's own development team, and Sony has theirs. But not a lot of these games hit it like at a stable frame rate, and this is especially when it comes to the third-party developers, because they have to take stuff like the Xbox Series S in mind, which is why some games are not really running that great on the Series S, but also it means that stuff that is then upscaled to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, they might not always be as good, or they'll just run as they are intended to run. But we're seeing more and more third-party games aiming for 30 frames and not hitting it, so maybe this is supposed to solve it. But then if that's the case, then you're solving a problem that should have been solved when the new generation was released. Now, considering that this is coming out in the 4th year of PlayStation 5, which, wow, that went way quicker than I expected, by the way. It's kind of interesting to see because it doesn't look like Xbox is going to aim for something similar. We don't know what they're exactly aiming for yet with their new system that is supposed to come out either this holiday or early next year. Who knows? We will see when that comes out. It is going to be interesting to see how this all stacks up when the Switch successor comes out next year, because the rumors for that have been floating around for a really long time, and we're finally getting a little bit more concrete rumors that feel more realistic than others have been in the past. But who knows? Maybe we'll see something interesting, maybe not. As far as PlayStation is concerned, PlayStation 5 Pro seems to be going to be something interesting that they are aiming for. Lest we see them also fracturing the market, the PlayStation 5 Pro is also slated to have a removable drive, which probably means that they'll, in either right away or in the future, after the PlayStation 5 Pro releases, they might release one that is driverless. Or they just do what they did with the PlayStation 5 and just straight up be driverless and drive versions out of the gate, which would make sense because you don't want to alienate people that have a driverless version of the PlayStation 5 and want to upgrade to the Pro, and then suddenly having to deal with a drive. Plus, it comes with 1 terabyte of hard drive space. So that's at least something, right? It is at least an upgrade. I mean, versus the 500 that comes with the PlayStation 5, which never really made sense to me outside of the fact that you can just plop in like a 2 or 4 terabyte M2 drive and then have basically infinite space. This helps alleviate that a little bit on the upset, and then later down the line you can always upgrade to even more storage down the line. So that is at least something cool. So that's the PlayStation 5 Pro. Moving on to the next item in the list. Y'all remember Stardew Valley? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that still enjoy playing Stardew Valley to this day. Heck, even I, from time to time, will dip into some multiplayer Stardew Valley on my Switch. And yeah, people thought that there were not going to be any more updates because the developer, Concerned Ape, is working on a new game. But surprise, surprise, somewhere last year, he announced that he was working on patch 1.6. And it's very exciting indeed. There is so much in patch 1.6. I can't even begin to tell you how much there is in there. But I want to highlight a few things that is in there. It is out since March 19th. So if you're playing on PC or Mac, the update is live. If you're playing on mobile or console, don't worry. Those updates will be coming to those systems, just not now. For now, it's just for PC players and players on Mac. And some of the things includes a new major festival, 2 new mini festivals, which are fishing festivals, more late game content, a bunch of new dialogue stuff, more interactions that are detailed with the NPCs reacting uniquely to whatever gifts that you give them, and so on and so forth. And there's so much more stuff covered in this 1.6 update for Stardew Valley. It is ridiculous. Now, I thought that I did not own it on a PC. Turns out I do. So I'll be checking out this update once this is all over, and I'll give you guys an update maybe in the next episode of Game Rivals. But for now, look forward to that. If you have it on PC or Mac, the update is available. In fact, there have been some small patches since the update has gone live. So check it out. Let me know what you think. And hey, maybe we can do some multiplayer stuff in Stardew Valley. I would really look forward to that because the multiplayer stuff is actually pretty cool. It doesn't behold you to like sticking with the host of that farm, and you can have your own thing and do your own thing on that farm. You can also go gallivanting. You can romance your favorite NPC, of course, and all that stuff. And yeah, just look forward to that. Let me know what you think of it, and I'll let you guys know what I think of it when I actually get the chance to play it a little bit. Moving on from that, we're going to talk about some unfavorable news, at least for Capcom, which like they kind of did not need this. It's kind of weird why they did this and not just be upfront about it. What am I talking about? Let me just get right into it. So Dragon's Dogma 2, highly anticipated game from Capcom. It's been, I want to say 14 years since the original game released, and I'm not even counting the re-release, the online version. I'm not talking about Dark Arisen, stuff like that. I'm just talking about the original release that came out on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 that came out about 14 years ago, and people are like, oh, they're not going to bring out a new game. And surprise, surprise, they announced a new game last year, and now it's out, and people are arguably very pissed. And you know what? Kind of rightfully so-ish, because one thing that people did not expect, for some reason, is that the game would have microtransactions, and it has a lot of microtransactions. Some microtransactions are pretty innocent, like the full soundtrack, or like stuff that is cosmetic. But there's also stuff like getting more currency for the games. Like you can buy in-game currency to use that to speed up your game. You can buy special currency to unlock special stuff in the game, and people were not happy about it. In fact, people are so not happy about it that it is currently sitting at a negative 19% on Steam, which is yikes. That is not happy. That is some very not happy people. They are very not happy about it. Why? Because people were not aware that there were going to be microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2. And in fact, even in reviews, they were kinda, sorta, not really allowed to talk about the microtransactions. They were notified about the microtransactions, and the reason why they weren't allowed to talk about some of it, because apparently some of the microtransactions are spoiler related. So yeah, it is super weird. There's so much going on. It's still very fresh, and there's a lot of controversy going around. Capcom did make some apologies about the whole discourse, at least for the PC players, because on top of that, like, they couldn't catch a break. The game does not run great. Remember earlier when I said at the start, when it comes to the current generation of consoles, the games still don't run as you would expect them to run? Yeah, put this one under there as well. Apparently it doesn't really run that great, and it runs even worse on PC unless you have some god tier gaming rig, apparently, because it is unstable. It is an unstable game. It's just, how do you do this? And some people are thinking, oh, maybe it's because the RE engine is being stretched thin because they're using the RE engine and it's open world, which is interesting because RE engine is also responsible for Monster Hunter Rise. And granted, it's not open world. It has pretty big zones when you go after the monsters. But then again, it is Monster Hunter. They know how to manipulate the environment to make it look lush, but also not super interactive. Whereas this, you basically can go anywhere that you see. It's an open world game, as was the previous game. Also with the previous game, microtransactions. Apparently, in the 14 years' time, people forgot that the original Dragon's Dogma had microtransactions. In fact, the same microtransactions. So yeah, I guess people just forgot that existed and kind of accepted it. I don't know how people reacted to it back in the day because there's not really a lot of documentation about that. Also, those systems have been since, disactivated, except apparently for PlayStation 3. I don't own Dragon's Dogma on PlayStation 3, so I wouldn't be able to confirm or deny this fact. But I do own a PlayStation 3, and I could go on PSN on PlayStation 3 to check it out. So I might do that if it didn't take way too much effort to do so. But I'm pretty sure someone else online will check that out. Outside of that, we're going back to the graphical performance. It is kind of amazing that it is not great on PC specifically, and that you need a pretty powerful PC to allegedly run it properly. Because now you have a bunch of PC gamers that are angry about microtransactions that they didn't know about previously, and also the fact that it does not run as good as it should, which is really disappointing to see, and also kind of makes me worried about Monster Hunter Wilds, because I'm assuming that also runs on the RE engine, because that's their main engine that they're using at Capcom right now. So yeah, that's a little bit worrying. I think they're using an updated version of RE Engine, but I guess we'll see then how that's going to be going. But yeah, a lot of people not really happy with Dragon's Dogma 2 right now. The reviews, however, are pretty good because, again, reviews are done in a setting where it is advantageous for the game, especially when it comes to having to connect to online, using the pawn system and whatnot. So, like, the aggregate is actually pretty good so far. We'll see how that goes. as the week goes on. But yeah, let it be known that PC gamers are very vocal about this. At least Capcom is acknowledging that they made a kind of an oopsie, at least when it comes to the PC performance. And I guess we'll be seeing patches for a while. I don't know how quickly they're going to turn around the patches and try and fix performance on PC and on consoles, but I guess we'll see when that hits. And I'm pretty sure that Digital Foundry is going to be like hitting that with a ton of bricks and being very honest and going to scrutinize the living crap out of it. So there's that at least. Yeah, not great, but what are people supposed to expect, really? A lot of games these days have microtransactions. I'm not saying that they're great, or that I accept them, or that I like them. It is just a fact of life. It is something basically inescapable at this point. So yeah, I don't know if it's people. I'm assuming people are just upset that it just exists, and there have been developers in the back in the day that have hidden stuff like that. Battlefront 2 comes in mind, and that was also not great for EA. So, there's that kind of thing that happens, and justifiably people got upset and they took it out. But this is a single player game, not a multiplayer game. So having the microtransactions, I mean, it's not like it hasn't happened before. Again, Assassin's Creed has had this in the past as well, with the XP boosts and stuff like that, which is like, okay. And some people do like it because not everybody has 100 hours to spend on grinding. And some people just want the purity of a single player game, which is also fair. But how are they going to address this? Are they going to remove the microtransactions in the future? Who's to say? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just leave the microtransactions as is. Maybe they'll take it out and try to please everybody by increasing that stuff in game. By the way, all the stuff that there's in the microtransactions outside of like the soundtracks and stuff and yada yada yada, those are still gettable even if you don't spend the money. The money just allows you to spending the money allows you to just get it outright instead of grinding for it, or at least giving you a chance to get it in game instead of grinding for the in-game currency for it. So there's that dynamic going. I don't know how I feel about that. I was really looking forward to Dragon's Dogma 2, and I will eventually pick it up, just not right now, because I have way too much on my plate when it comes to playing RPGs. So adding another one is, that's not good. I need to start making my backlog a little bit smaller. It's gonna take some time, but Dragon's Dogma 2 is definitely on the list. And finally, what I kind of want to talk about a little bit is a new game that has recently come out. I talked about it a little bit in the previous episode, which is Princess Peach Showtime, which is now out. The reviews are in. It's getting okay reviews so far. Most of them hovering around the 7 and 8 range, which is actually not bad. People don't hate the game, so that's actually good. It's a fun game. It is aimed at a younger audience, but it seems to be a very engaging game nonetheless, which is that Nintendo magic that people really like, which is great and it's awesome. The interesting thing about Princess Peach, though, is that once again, this is a game that is not directly made by Nintendo themselves, and people didn't know that until the game came out. It's because Nintendo did not talk about it for whatever reason, but it is once again developed by the good people at Goodfeel, which did Yoshi's Woolly World, WarioWare Shake It, and a bunch of other games that they've done in the past for Nintendo, which is kind of funny because why would you hide this fact until the game came out? And even then, reviewers were not allowed to talk about it until the game released. That, oh yes, the Goodfeel are the developers. Also, this game is made in Unreal Engine 4, and it shows because the game, if you've played the demo, it looks pretty good. It looks very clean. As far as I could tell, there's no like frame rate dips, or at least maybe in the main game they might be. There might be some performance hiccups, but nothing that would impact the gameplay, apparently, at least according to most reviews out there. So that's good. We'll see again how that pans out when Digital Foundry takes the looking glass to that game as well. Great. That it sounds awesome. It sounds like a fun time to have if you have kids, or if you're a kid at heart, which, no disrespect to kids at heart, I am one too. At least when I played the demo, I enjoyed it a lot. It is not overly complicated. It is very simplistic in its gameplay, but from what I've seen from the reviews and from the trailers, there's a lot more because Princess Peach can transform into different professions, or at least different styles and like different stuff, like sword fighter, kung fu Peach. You have Ninja Peach, which looks really cool. And the latest trailer, I think the release trailer, had Mega Peach, which looked like a tokusatsu hero. So like she looks like flippin' Kamen Rider. I'm like, wait, what? That's a thing? I mean, you have Mermaid Peach, and then you have Kamen Rider Peach. It looks so crazy, but it looks so cool, and I kind of want to play it. Again, another game that I have to put on the back burner because I have way too many games to check out. But oh my gosh, it looks so much fun, and I part of me kind of wish that I was a kid so that I could experience this game as a kid. And at least from what the reviews are saying, it is very much a fun time for all to be had, which is great. It doesn't need to be a 10 out of a 10 as long as it's a fun game, right? So I hope a lot of people at least give it a check out. The demo's on Switch, so at least check out the demo because it sounds like a good time. It sounds like having a fun time all around. And at this point, considering that Goodfeel has made so many games for Nintendo, we might see down the road that they acquire Goodfeel. I don't know what they've worked out on outside of Nintendo games, but yeah, it looks really cool. There is one more interesting tidbit about Princess Peach Showtime, though, and that is that it is a game that has a director that hasn't worked on a game specifically as a director in over 25 years, and that is the director of the Goemon series. So Mystical Ninja Goemon, if you do not know, is a game franchise from Konami that was out in like the early to mid 90s, about this ninja called Goemon, and it is based off of Japanese folklore. They had games on like the Super Nintendo and the N64, and the N64 Goemon game, Mystical Ninjas, starring Goemon, is the last game that he directed and produced. Now, this is the first game since then that he's actually directed and produced, alongside the fact that he is also the CEO of Goodfeel. I'm forgetting the name right now a little bit, but that is pretty cool. It is someone who knows his stuff, and he used to be a programmer on a bunch of other stuff for Konami, like Castlevania and Castlevania Legacy, which is like, okay, so this dude knows his stuff. So that's pretty cool. I don't know why this needed to be hidden. I would honestly be like trumpeting it from the rooftops that we had some good pedigree working on our games. I mean, the whole thing with Bandai Namco working on Nintendo games, also not something that Nintendo really brought up until recently, and now it's official that Bandai Namco has a studio dedicated to Nintendo games, specifically Switch games at the moment, and probably also Switch predecessor stuff that we haven't seen yet. So yeah, it's kind of weird that Nintendo does not really like to promote this stuff, and I don't know if they want to if it's something that is left over from like the 80s and 90s of not trying to promote your creators so they don't get poached away, but that's stuff that is so far behind us. I do not understand the logic behind it. It's a little bit weird. But yeah, at least they made something good. So yeah, the game was in good hands, and apparently the reviews are also saying that. So great, we get a new Princess Peach game. Hopefully it doesn't take another almost 20 years to to get another Princess Peach game, but there you have it. That's gonna be it. It's gonna be good stuff. And yeah, that's about it for this week for Game Rivals. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you're listening to this on your podcasting service, we're on all the beautiful podcasting services. If you name it, we're probably there. Also, thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, I appreciate that. Don't forget to leave a like, comment if you can, leave some feedback because I really appreciate that, and subscribe so that you do not miss any episodes going out for Game Rivals. Also, if you want to give us feedback through mail, we have that. That's gamearrivalsfeedback@gmail.com. You can also find me on the social media. I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Maximilian_X on Instagram, also on TikTok. You can find me there posting some highlight reels from my Twitch streams, which is also twitch.tv/Maximilian_X. You can find me there as well, streaming usually Tuesdays and Thursdays whenever I have the chance to stream, or any other day that I'm able to stream. So look forward to those ones as well. And that is just going to be it for me for this week. Thank you once again for watching and listening. I have been and always will be Maximilian X, and I'll see all of you beautiful rivals next time. Later.